Welcome. In front of me I have the Motorola Moto E13, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this device. Now, before we get started, let's just quickly look at the version that I have right here, which will be the 2GB RAM with 64 gigs of storage. So this is literally the lowest end model you can possibly get. And let's pop it open. Now I'll start off by saying that this is a completely budget device, so we will need to tone down our expectations. I'll also say that I'll probably be kind of negative about some of the things in here. I am more of a power user rather than like a budget one, so obviously this device isn't catering towards me. So whatever I say, do take that with a grain of salt and adjust it for your own expectations. My expectations and requirements from a device might be a slightly different than yours, so that's, you might want to just kind of see what I'm talking about. Obviously will have validity, but my opinion about it might not to you. So anyway, I just get in there. We have some paperwork, so I'm just gonna yeet that to the side. Get a charger, which is pretty nice that we have one included in the box. This is a pretty low charger, to be honest. It's only 10 watts, and chances are you already have one laying around your house somewhere that does the job just as well as this one, if not better. And we also have a charging cable, so this will be a Type A to Type C. So that leads me to positive about this device, which is it actually has a Type C charging port, which I am saying that this is a positive because devices still, even in 2023, include micro USB as a charging port on their budget devices. Motorola here decided that 120 euros, or about that price, it's good enough to include a Type C. So thank you, Motorola, for doing so. Anyway, let's turn it on and we'll get to see our screen. So this is a 6.5-inch display that you will see just in a second once it boots up, and we can see the white background, so we'll see the bezels and all that stuff. But it's a 720p resolution, so 720 by 1600 LCD IPS display, 82% screen to body ratio, and 270 pixels per inch. No high refresh rate, no nothing like that. So yeah. Additionally, I did kind of want to mention, thanks Motorola for not just making me go deaf with your Hello Moto just like catchphrase that you do with every phone, but in some cases this is literally being screamed to you. Here it was just, you know, nice and quiet. Now here we go, you can see the bezels of the device. We do have a pretty hefty chin at the bottom for current standards, I would say, but it's still nothing like egregious. Now, while I'm going through the setup, I'm going to quickly touch upon the internals just because it doesn't really require me to do anything, so I can continue going through the setup. So this device is being powered by a 5000 mAh battery. It has a Unisec T606 processor, 2 or 4 gigs of RAM with 64 gigs of storage. Now, when it comes down to the storage that is included in here, you can also extend it further using an SD card. At least I think so. We're gonna check it in a second once I actually finish up the setup, which is right about now. Oh, yep, there we go. So let's grab our little SIM eject tool and locate the SIM tray. There we go, on the side. And yep, so you can pop in an SD card in here along with 2 SIM cards. All having its own dedicated spot on the tray, which is really nice. So, like I said, 64 gigs can be extended further, probably up to like half a terabyte or even further, depending on what the device supports. So that's really nice. And let's see, is there anything else? I didn't mention the cameras yet. So at the back we have a single camera setup. Thanks Motorola for not including trash cameras that I need to pay for. That is appreciated. I don't care that I have only one camera. I have that one camera even as budget. I mean, this is a budget device, but I've seen devices that are at $100 price range and they will include like 5 megapixel sensor and 2 macro and depth. Like at that point, just don't include cameras at all. It's pointless. So I like to see companies actually not including garbage sensors, though the main one here isn't necessarily that great, but still nice that they decided not to include garbage ones, because that does include, you do get to pay for it. Even though the sensors are completely useless and you will never utilize them for anything, you still had to pay for them. So here, Motorola did a nice thing and didn't include them at all, which hopefully allowed them to put that saving into some other parts of the phone, making it a little bit better. Now, the camera that we actually have here is a 13 megapixel wide sensor, and at the front we have a 5 megapixel also wide sensor. Now, what is surprising right here is both of these cameras can shoot at 1080p 30 frames, and the reason why I'm saying that this is surprising is because phone from Motorola, double the price, the E13, which I'm going to just kind of bring up into the shot, this one, even though it has a 50 megapixel sensor, also can shoot at 1080p 30 frames, costs twice as much. Obviously it has some other things in here that kind of, you know, add up to the price, but still, in terms of just like video recording, it's disappointing that a phone that costs twice as much couldn't have 1080p 60. But here at this price range, honestly, it's not such a big deal, I would say. Now, what is there else to say? I think mention that this has a 5000 mAh battery, 10 watt charging, so the two worth mentioning things. We don't have a fingerprint sensor here whatsoever, from what I can see. No, there isn't one on the power button, there isn't one at the back. So we only are locked to just either face recognition most likely, or pin pattern password. I'm gonna check it out just so I can be absolutely certain about it, but that seems to be the case. Yep, face and screen lock, so no fingerprint whatsoever. And that's really it. So just to kind of finish this off, I guess, a phone for about 120 euros, like this one, seems to be okay. Like I mentioned at the start, this isn't necessarily the phone for me. It has its drawbacks, obviously. So to kind of just sum up the positives and negatives right here, now I'm going to try to be very fair for the price. I'm not going to include like every negative here compared to like other devices that are much more expensive, just because that would be stupid, obviously. So I'm going to just try to include ones that would have from different devices that come at about the same price. So starting off, cameras are a little bit on the weaker side even for the price. The display is okay. Actually, let me actually redo this and start off with just the positives first, maybe. So screen size, pretty nice. Battery, amazing. It's a really big battery right here. The inclusion of charger in the box is also really nice. Even though you might have a better one at home already, it's still really nice to have one included. Maybe something will happen with yours. There is one that you can always use. Type-C charging port, which again, at this price range, isn't always a given. And the inclusion of SD card. Those are probably some of the positives, though inclusion of an SD card spot is kind of also given for every phone at this price range, so might not be a good positive here. Now the negatives right here would be relatively weak charging speed. They did include a charger, but 10 watts is a little bit slow, I would say, especially for 2023, which this phone has been released at the beginning of this year, which is 2023. Another thing would be just the build quality. It's a little bit cheaper. The camera, like I said, it's really lacking at the back at 13 megapixels. They could have included a better one. No fingerprint sensor whatsoever anywhere, which again, phones at this price range tend to have that. And I think that would be all that I can talk about in terms of like negatives of the device. Anything else that I would say that is negative, I would be just very nitpicky, and at this point, if I start including the things that I would say that are negative, this phone would quickly add up to not be a budget device. Oh, I did forget about one more thing that I keep remembering when I look at it. This is running a Go version of Android. It is the newest Android, 13, though like you can see, all the applications are the Go versions, which are ones that consume significantly less resources, just because specifically this phone right here is running only 2 gigs of RAM, which is really low. Now if you went for higher one with the 4 gigs of RAM, that would give you significantly better longevity of the device, I would say. But with the 2 gigs of RAM, I wouldn't recommend going for this specific version of the device. It might be cheaper, but paying that extra like 10 bucks or so more will make your usability of this device significantly better. So I would highly recommend just forking a little bit more and going for the 4 gigs of RAM instead of the 2. Now the device will still be running the Go version of everything, but at least you will have the applications stay open a little bit longer, and also probably load a little bit quicker because the RAM will allow for this. This one here is really like bare bones, and this specific, the 2 gig version, I wouldn't recommend. But anyway, with this being said, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.